This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, college sports fans, and welcome to the Primetime Podcast. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And Brandon, we got a jam-packed show today. A little bit of college basketball, a little bit of college football,
A little bit of Jessica in my...
A little bit of Mambo number 5 up in here, but not the Radio Disney version.
No,
it's got to be Monica
no.
and Jessica, not Mickey and Goofy. But we do have some jam-packed topics for this Primetime Podcast. Going to be talking Thon Maker. The boys, I should say myself and the other guys, Sean and Dave, talked about Thon this week on the Fast Break. Focus more, where could he go in the NBA? However, Brandon, it's not for sure that he will be going to the NBA. So we're going to sit here and focus, should Thon go to college and who should he pick to go to school for? And then we're also going to look at the satellite cap ban in college football. Maybe one more topic later in the show. We haven't decided, but those two for sure. And the first one, Thon Maker. Let's say right now, let's throw the decision out the window. If you are Thon Maker, Brandon, and you're coming in, you're a 19-year-old kid thinking, hey, I can come straight out of high school in Canada and go straight to the pros, are you saying, you know what, Thon, go ahead and do it? Or are you saying, you know what, maybe you should go to college?
You know, I think it really could go both ways, because if you're Thon Maker, you can look at 2003 LeBron James, who did it, and 2004 Dwight Howard. So I think that, those two guys aren't too bad, with obviously LeBron James being the better of the two. So, but it doesn't happen a whole lot. You know, it just does not happen a whole lot.
Not many people are LeBron James. Let's just put it that way.
Let's just say that no one is LeBron James except for LeBron James. There's
one
LeBron James. There's one Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
They are two separate players with two different sets of skills. Let's just put that out there right away for all you basketball people. So I do think it's interesting, though, because to even have the thought that you may not go to college and play in college, it's interesting. I really think that... I really think going to college is so important, not just for, and people are going to be like, oh, shut up, Brandon. But really, I think going to college, not just for the experience there in college, because from college to the pros is a leap. From high school to the pros, that's tough. That's really tough. But I think you got to get the education there too. I think you've got to get the education in college, because I keep saying it. Mm-hmm. You are done with your career by 40. I mean, you're done most likely before then. But you are done by 40. What are you going to do after that? What are you going to do?
Well, and I'll be honest, the only person at Most Valuable Podcast, maybe besides Mark, that I can have this discussion with and not get it jammed down my throat about money is you. That's why I love having these conversations with you on the Primetime Podcast, because there's so much to just this discussion of going to school. And now we've added so much to it, where you can either go to school for a year, then go to the NBA. If you're not a one-and-doneer, you can stay for multiple years, then try to go to the NBA. You can do the Emmanuel Mudiay route and say, you know what, I'm going to play in China for a year, then come over and make myself eligible for the NBA draft. And really the decision with Thon Maker, you have to kind of get out of the way first, is do you think he really did the same thing as, I'm going to put it, did he do the same thing as Emmanuel Mudiay, where Mudiay went over to China, kind of gave an FU to the NCAA and SMU and said, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to go get paid, and then came over and got paid in the NBA. Thon Maker didn't do that. Went to high school, played a 5th year this past year in Canada, and yeah, he's 19. Yeah, he technically has been graduated out of high school for a year, but the thing, and you said it, Brandon, you've been playing against high school talent for the past year, and it's easy to look good against high school talent when you're the 18/19-year-old kid, 7-footer, that can tower over everyone, has the athletic ability to be better than them, is a capable shooter, has a motor, and it's easy to look good in front of high school kids when you're a fifth-year senior. To me, I feel like, me personally, he may be suited better to go to college, and this immediately enters the ground. And Dave Oster on the fast break is one of these guys, and Brandon, I'm glad that you're not. There's the people like Dave that immediately say, no, go get your money. Go get your money in the NBA. Screw school. Screw the education. Go get your money. I'm not even talking on the educational, because I know I'm on the same side as you. Education's important. I mean, look at the guys like, I'm going to throw out Andrew Luck in football, that actually went and got that degree, stayed an extra year in school just to get that degree. I'm not even going to use that side of it, though. I'm just saying, as a just player of the game, I feel like you have to go to school, especially if you're Thon Maker, because of the first two things. When you look at, let's say, the Draft Express video for his weaknesses, what are the first two things they list? And it's easy to see in his film: his feel for the game, and he needs offensive polish. Yeah, you can do that in the NBA, but you're not going to be able to do that well enough unless you go to like a team like Boston or a team like Toronto or Cleveland or San Antonio. That's like, you know what? We've got guys. We've got guys who can take us to the playoffs, sit at the end of the bench, and polish your game. Where you can go to college, you can do that in college and be the BMOC and possibly win a national championship in school.
The thing here is that if you bypass college, you bypass a lot of learning. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking necessarily in school learning. You're talking about learning on the court.
Yeah.
I'm talking about learning on the court, learning in life about not only about basketball, but about how to be a better man. And I bring this up, and I want to point out Marcus Page in his senior speech, and he brings up Roy Williams, and he says, not only did you make me a better basketball player, but you made me a better man to then move on to the next stage of my life. And I'm sure Roy Williams will always be a part of Marcus Page's life, always. And I think that Thon Maker, if he does not go to college, you don't even think about money right now. You're not even thinking about money. You're thinking about everything else. Because money, as quickly as it comes, it can go away just as quickly. And I think, though, having that knowledge, being able to be in a locker room with other college guys, learn with them at the same time, go along with experiences with them, you're not only missing out on the learning side of it, you're missing out on the experience side of it. You know, I am not really for as much partying and dumb stuff that Johnny Manziel does, because he's a stupid kid, and I really hope he gets help. But you got to have some fun, too. And being able to have fun with, these college guys who are on the same level as you, that's so different than NBA. Because they got their families, they got their other stuff they're doing with their boys and stuff like that. They don't got time for you. You're a kid. You know what? I really think that that's just another reason why you got to go to college. You have got to go and play in college, because there is so much to learn from the college game before you even think about stepping on an NBA court. That is just me, but I think that that is really important. And I think if anyone's overlooking that, you are silly. You are silly.
Well, and I'm going to reference, and I'm going to put it down in the description again in case you had not listened yet to our fast break discussion when Sean, Dave, and myself talked about it this past weekend of Thon Maker, where does he project in the NBA? But there's this SI article where they had a round table where they asked NBA writers, they had an anonymous NBA scout, anonymous NBA executive, and they asked them about Thon Maker. And if you list through almost every single one, they say the same thing. He's not ready. Ben Gulliver, NBA writer, right away says, I'm skeptic. There's two things in his mind. He's multi-years away from being NBA ready. Their first NBA scout they talked to said he's 2 or 3 years away. The anonymous NBA executive that they talked to, he talked more about the eligibility, but yet again said, you know what, I don't think he's ready. A lot of people saying, I don't think he's ready for the NBA, and there was one of them, I can't remember who, that made an interesting kind of thought that I didn't think of, and it made me think, you know what? He should just go to school. And that was, is Thon Maker mentally going to be ready to deal with, hey, you know what? I may not be the everyday starter. I may not even be the role player. I may be either one, sitting on the end of the bench, just not even playing at all, just sitting on the end of the bench, or two, be playing in the D-League. Is he ready for that? And the way I look at it is, why would you do that to yourself when you could go to college and right away he could have the opportunity to be the BMOC, the big man on campus, and win a national championship? Because let's be honest, any team, and there are 6 of them that we're going to talk about in a second, St. John's, Indiana, Notre Dame, Arizona State, Kansas, and UNLV, that have a shot at getting this guy. Any of those teams would be just, it would make their team instantly better having him on the court. And that's why I say, you know what, you gotta go. If you're 2 or 3 years away, at least spend that 1 year in school. At least spend that 1 year. Develop your game in college, because then me as a college NBA kind of sided guy, I can see you play against college athletes, and if you dominate like you did in high school this past year, then I can go, okay, he's NBA ready. But if you go to the NBA and you're stuck at the end of the bench or stuck playing in the D-League, that's going to hurt. That could hurt you mentally unless you are mentally strong. And I don't think Thon Maker's that mentally strong. So that's why I would go to college, be the big man on campus, and then go to the NBA.
Well, I think that's absolutely the thing. You know, I think that it's really important for him to kind of get a feel for college. Mm-hmm. You got to get that little taste before you go to the NBA. A lot of guys have done the 1 year. I think you and I are both kind of on the same page where we would much rather see them go farther and kind of finish out their college career. But I think that even in that 1 year, you can learn a lot. Even in that 1 year, you get, I think, a little sense of what the NBA is going to be like. And I think that's really, really important. That's huge. Those things are huge, and by bypassing all of that, I don't think that's a smart idea. I really don't think it's a smart idea. I think that, honestly, he makes more of an impact stepping onto a college court where he is right now than he would NBA. And if he doesn't realize that, he certainly isn't ready. He certainly isn't ready. If he does not get that, and if there are people around him saying, "No, what? Who needs college? You don't need it, man. You don't need no education. We're here to play school." You don't.
Okay, Cardell.
No one is helping him then. No one knows what they're talking about because he's not going to be making a big impact then. If he goes straight NBA, you're not. And I continue to watch both obviously college is over for the year, which is really upsetting because now all we have to watch is the end of the NBA.
But we got college baseball.
Excuse me. Watch the end of the boring ass NBA season, minus the Warriors and now Kobe, because we get to see the last 2 games with Kobe, and then the Lakers go back to being the Lakers and terrible. But I think that watching the NBA and watching college next to each other, for me, it's no contest. It is college all the way because college is more exciting. I think, NBA is more big play, big dunk, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's cool. I love that. I love the big dunk. I love the big play, everything like that. But college is so much more on the edge of your seat what's going to happen. And things can change so quickly like that in a split second. And each year, what team this year is going to be the one? To not want to be a part of that before you go to the big money, before you go to the big play, before you go to being able to take 8 steps and not having to travel. I think all of those things, that should not, how am I trying to say this? You should not want all of that before you've even touched college. Because the way I've talked about college in the moments ago, that's what you should be living for. I mean, you want the money. I get it. You want the stardom. But even in college, you become the face of some of these teams. And let me tell you, these college players, these college athletes, they are taken care of very well. Not NBA style well, but very well.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and this is only because this is the first thing I thought of before I even watched any of Thon Maker's film, and I saw that, okay, 7 foot, I want to say 215 is his weight off the top of my head. Thon Maker wants to enter the draft. The first thing I thought of was better not be like Joel Embiid. Because the first thing, better not be like Greg Oden. Because the first thing I think of when I see 7-footer is check those knees. Make sure those knees are in tip-top shape. And I know that he's not as, like, one of the things that they've been saying is he's got to bulk up a little bit. He's got to get some size to get up to where Joel Embiid was coming out of school, where Greg Oden was weight-wise when he was coming out of school. Am I crazy for thinking, okay, 7-footer, then maybe the one reason why you want to go to the NBA is because you're worried if I play in college for X amount of years, my knees may not make it. My knees may not be able to make it to where, look at Greg Oden, played in college for X amount of years, then his knees blew out. I know that one leg was shorter than the other, and maybe that played into it.
Possibly, but I think at the same time, you can't be worried about that. You can't be worried about that. You just got to be smart. I think that's what it comes down to. Not saying that the other guys weren't smart. I mean, I think it's just unfortunate for them, sadly. But you got to be smart, and you can't do too much. You can't do too much. There is such thing as going too hard. There really is, especially if that's something that you believe could be a problem going forward. You know your limits. You know if you're in the weight room too much. You know if you're putting too much pressure on your knees. You know if you're doing too much of that. You do. You know your own body. So I think that Thon Maker, all he's got to do is he needs to just monitor anything like that if it were to come up, it may not even be an issue for him, but it seems to be, and it has been for some of these taller guys their knees have been, just absolute crap at the end of their college career and really never let them get off the ground for their NBA career. It's just being smart, I think, and it's being able to monitor all of it and push yourself to the limit, but know your limit. I think that's huge. I think that's huge. It's simple, but I think it's big. I mean, that's what it comes down to, and I think that's not something that you should say. If you're scared and you don't want to go to college because of that, you just want to go to NBA. Okay, so you have a short stint as an NBA player. Mm-hmm. Then you're done. What are you doing? Do you know how to do anything? You gonna get a job? What are you doing? Nothing.
Okay, let's wrap this up by focusing in on, there were a few teams I mentioned: Indiana, Kansas, Arizona State, St. John's, Notre Dame, UNLV. Those are right now the ones that earlier this year SI had reported that when we got to this time of the year, Maker was going to make his decision. We didn't know that decision was going to end up being, hey, I want to see if I can go to the NBA draft. Instead, put yourself into the big boy shoes, because as a 7'1" guy, those are some big fucking shoes that you're filling, Brandon. If you're, let's say, Thon Maker can't go to the NBA. They don't let him. They say you're not eligible before the draft. What school do you pick and why?
I think I might be going Kansas. Perry Ellis is gone after a stint of 12 years. I think that
12 years.
I think I might be going Kansas. They need another big guy, and who else than to have Thon Maker, this 7-foot giant, go down there and be a force down low. And I think that's one reason why Kansas lost, because they were not big enough. Mm-hmm. They were not big enough, and they were matched and possibly overmatched against Villanova, a team who ended up winning the national championship this year. And again, congratulations to them. But I really think that the team that I would be picking is Kansas, because I can go down there. If I'm the Thon Maker, I'm thinking I can go down there. I can be a huge presence for Kansas down low, something that they'll be lacking.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say Kansas, but I was going to say Kansas for a different reason. And the main reason I was going to say Kansas is, look at them this past tournament run. What was one of the big things that Kansas was able to do until they ran into the buzzsaw of Villanova. They were able to just run the floor.
They were able to run the floor. You would have thought there was no defense against them because they shredded each and every one of them.
And that's one thing looking at Thon Maker's film, that even though he's 7'1", he looks like a player that has the capability to run the floor. And at Kansas, you need that.
Yeah, you do.
You need to be able to run the floor. And another thing that I like, and this is from the mouth of Thon Maker when SI talked to him about each schools, he said, and I quote, "And their guards can shoot, so that really leaves the bigs on an island to go to work. And it opens up a lot of space." If you're Thon Maker, what's better than that? You get to run the floor. You get to be put on an island where it's basically like you're Dwight Howard with the Orlando Magic. Guard shoots a three. If they miss it, tip it in, get the rebound, put it back up. And I mean, defensively, this kid can be a monster. He has the potential, and that's the big thing that we used on the fast break with Thon Maker. And that's all you can use right now is he has the potential for this. He has the potential for that. Has the potential here. Has the potential there. This kid could be a force down low. Could be a force. However, because we picked the same two teams, I'm going to give you a few thoughts that I had on some of the others. If Kansas is my one, Indiana's my two. Thomas Bryant might be leaving, maybe going to the draft. Boom, you can put Thon Maker down there, right down low. Remember this team when they had Noah Vonleh down low? Pretty scary team for the Hoosiers when he was down low. You can go ahead and also play for a quality coach in Tom Crean. I know not a lot of people like him, but after after this past year in his run, might be winning a few people over. My number 3 team would be Notre Dame, just because of the first quote I see from Thon Maker in this SI article. It's also pro stuff in terms of making guys really have to defend by running their stuff. If you think it's going to be like running a pro-style system, cool, go to that team. There's one team, though, that I think could be the underdog, and it's going to be interesting because they're a building team. Wouldn't it be just shot out of the dark if he said, you know what, I can't go to the NBA draft, I'm going to go play for Chris Mullins in St. John's?
That would be interesting. That would be interesting, but that
would be the thing to almost turn St. John's rebuilding process around like that.
I think it's intriguing, but I think that the top 3 that you mentioned, the first 3 programs make more sense.
Those are the ones that make sense. St. John's, the reason why I would go to St. John's if I was him, if you want to play for Chris Mullen. Same thing with Arizona State, except they're a little bit better than St. John's. If I want to go to Arizona State, it's because I want to play for Bobby Hurley. That's who I want to play for. And then UNLV, you're not the running Rebels of the past. You are not the running Rebel team that went up against the Fab Five, went up against Christian Laettner and those Dukies. They don't even got a shot in my mind. To me, it comes down Kansas, Indiana are the 1-2, Notre Dame kind of a distant 3. However, knowing my luck and picking where guys are going to go to school, then Thon Maker will probably go St. John's or Arizona State, just because I said he won't for sure.
Yeah, of course. You opening your mouth to say anything, and it'll jinx everything.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. But that's going to do it for our Thon Maker discussion. If you have any thoughts, leave it down below in the comment section, whether you're listening on YouTube or SoundCloud.